All right, now I know ripping packs is a lot of fun, and I know a portion of you guys have gotten into the hobby in the past year or two, have gotten a lot of packs of cards from retail shops or distributors, and you've ripped a lot of boxes, you've ripped a lot of packs, you've got a ton of cards, but you're not super deep in the Dynasty fantasy community or fantasy leagues, and so you need help prioritizing which players you should sell now, which players you should maybe sell at a future hype spike, or which players you should sell at will, but based on more hyped up comps because they do have potential. So today, this video is going to be perfect for you because I'm going to categorize the second and third year players coming out of 2021 and 2022 rookie product that you want to sell now, hold, or sell at more hyped up comps. And we're going to discuss some anecdotal evidence about each one of those. So let's dig in. Alright, so here's how we're going to do this, guys. We're going to have three different tiers or different categories, and let me explain which one is which here. So we're going to have sell ASAP even at a loss. Alright, and I'm going to talk about why it is that I put a certain player into that category pretty quickly. And then we're going to have sell at will based on more hyped comps. And basically, what that means is that you're going to take... If I put a certain player in that category, you're going to take a player that may be in the green category or a different player from that same draft class that is definitely more hyped up and more demand right now, that has a higher average resale price on, say, their Optic Holo or their Rookie Ticket Auto or their Prism Silver. And we're going to list that card in the yellow category for the card that may be in the green category. And so we're going to start with 2021 rookie quarterbacks. And then, of course, that third category here is hold for future spike. And that'd be a person that I would definitely list for more hyped comps. You can go ahead and list them now, but I would honestly say you can have them listed now in a buy it now format, but do not feel pressured to take a low ball offer. Do not feel pressured to even list those guys above the other guys that I have in the red or yellow categories, okay? So the first guy here is Mac Jones, and Mac Jones can actually go in both the green and the yellow category depending on how much personal collection value he has to you. So another important factor to understand here in this examination is if these guys have personal collection value to you and you do not care about resale value at all, then hold them for as long as you want, put them on your wall, do what you want with your cards if you're a pure collector. But I'm looking at this from a like a football NFL GM, personnel manager, or a dynasty fantasy manager, where you do an initial startup draft, and then once you draft that player onto your team, you're stuck with them until you either cut them from the team or you trade them. And sometimes you have to trade these players for a loss. You take less for what you get, what you spent on them. And in Dynasty Fantasy, you're spending draft capital. You're spending other player assets on your fantasy, right? And there's a lot of money on the line each season to try and win your league. And you know, Mac Jones had a rocky start to his season. There was controversy between him and Bailey Zappi, even to where he was pulled in a game for Bailey Zappi, only to be put back in the next week and then play the rest of the season. They also had significant offensive coordinator struggles in New England this past season. They will have a new offensive coordinator for 2023. Is yet to be seen who that's going to be, but there will be a new one there. It's likely that Mac Jones will be the starter once again. He's heading into his third year. He does have significant draft capital from Alabama, so that's a big pick. He was picked in the middle of the first round. And overall, he didn't play too bad this past year. A rocky start, right? But he finished number 11 in deep ball completion percentage. He finished number 9 in play action, number 8 in red zone. And he took a pretty significant amount of deep shots, and he was fairly accurate. So he actually had a pretty high deep ball catchable pass rate. So with him playing in New England under Bill Belichick, bringing in a new offensive coordinator, and then likely to only improve their wide receiver core, I think you got to hold Mac Jones for a future spike as long as Bill Belichick's there. And as long as Mac Jones is still a starter, I say if you really want to move him, sell him at more hyped comps. So somebody that would be more hyped comps, right, is going to be Trevor Lawrence, right, is going to be Whereas Justin Fields, right? These guys are more hyped up right now. Two of the most hyped up quarterbacks from the 2021 draft class that you definitely want to hold for a future spike this upcoming season. I think Mac Jones kind of falls into that category based on his entire storyline up until this point, because his market is low right now. So you could sell at will based on Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields comps, or you could simply hold for a future hype spike. Next up is Zach Wilson, and Zach Wilson is going to fall into the red category. Sell ASAP even at a loss, and here's why. The New York Jets fan base has absolutely disowned Zach Wilson for the large part, and to the point where they booed him out of several games, and he was pulled this past season after bouncing back from a knee injury in preseason, a non-contact injury, which was kind of goofy. And then he kind of bounced back against the Steelers in his opening game back. But if you look at his efficiency across the board, I mean, he was bottom, dead last in the league in all of his completion percentage categories. He played absolutely terrible under pressure, and that's a big issue, especially when you're playing at such a high speed and against the best defenses in the world in the NFL. And in the AFC East, the defenses aren't going to get any easier. They're only going to get more difficult in 2023. Playing Miami twice, now bringing in Vic Fangio, playing the Patriots twice, playing the Bills twice. You know, they're going to have a pretty tough schedule, and the Jets are absolutely looking for a quarterback upgrade this offseason. They are looking to invest. They've been rumored with Aaron Rodgers. They've been rumored to find some type of good veteran quarterback. I don't think it's going to be Mike White. I don't think it's not going to be Zach Wilson. He is going to be a backup until foreseeable future. He could be a backup for the rest of his career in the NFL with how bad he has played in the past year and a half. So, and he has really no excuses from this past season. It's just not going to work out. You know, he went to a small school. He never played any really good defenses in college, and that was the big knock on him, and they still drafted him with the number 2 overall pick. So there are people out there still buying Zach Wilson cards. You know, they still believe in him. He does have a snappy, zippy right arm. He can throw the ball. He's got a pretty strong arm, but just not very accurately, and especially under pressure. And he's a guy that you want to sell ASAP, even at a loss. Break even, take a loss. Now, some of you are going to get upset if I put Davis Mills up here, but look, he's an early 3rd round draft pick from the Texans and got lucky in the sense of getting the starting job for an injured Tyrod Taylor and the suspended Deshaun Watson in his rookie season. And he actually flashed in a couple games, and coming into this past season, he had some hype, and prices were their highest that they may be ever for Davis Mills, and now they're much lower. So it's hard to want to sell him now, especially if you bought him before the season. But if you rip these guys out of packs, which is what we're primarily talking about in this video. Which brings me to an important point. If you're new here, welcome to the Football Card Quest. My name is Andy. This video was inspired by one of our patrons. His name is Ryan, and this exact scenario is what he's in. He's ripped a lot of packs, a lot of boxes, got all these cards, and needs help prioritizing who he should list now, because listing and selling cards is time consuming. So, you know, part of what I offer over at patreon.com/footballcards is help with people pricing out cards, prioritizing players. Get in there. We've got a ton of experts that can really accelerate your learning curve in the football card investing, flipping, even collecting cards that you're hunting for, you know, other collectors that you want to talk to. We've got a Discord server set up and all that kind of good stuff. Plus, you know, a web app that tracks the graded football card sales on eBay and lets you do a lot of cool stuff there. So check it out in the description below, patreon.com/footballcards. Now back to the tier list. With Houston bringing in a new head coach DeMeco Ryans from the 49ers, he's already diplomatically stated that they do need to add depth, quality depth to their quarterback room. So the chances of the Houston Texans drafting a guy like Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or one of these other really good quarterback prospects that are coming out of the college pool this year is pretty high. They've got a top 5 draft pick this year. They could potentially move up with the Chicago Bears, who have that number 1 overall pick. So, you know, the likelihood of Davis Mills being a backup for at least the next couple years is pretty high. So unless you want to hold him for a couple more years and hope that maybe he gets like a journeyman start somewhere down the road on a team, you know, like a Josh Rosen, or, you know, a Drew Lock type of guy, then like go ahead and sell him now, even at a loss, because there are still some people that think that he will be the starter for the Houston Texans, and those kind of rumors are going to kind of keep his prices somewhat relevant. There are still some people spending some money here and there on Davis Mills, so I would sell ASAP even at a loss. You can kind of compare his prices to Zach Wilson's and see where they stack up and sell him for somewhere around there. Obviously, they're going to go for probably 50% lower than Trevor and Justin Fields. Maybe they're going to go for about the same as Mac Jones. Mac Jones is the guy that I think you could hold. Davis and Zach sell ASAP, even at a loss. Trey Lance, for me, is going to go in the yellow category. You could argue that he could go down here in the green category because the 49ers spent so much draft capital on him to get him that he's likely going to become their starter again next year when he's healthy. Plus, you know, there's going to be rumors. This is really going to come down to what's going to happen in training camp and heading into the season. There's definitely going to be a QB competition between Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. Then they got to figure out what they're going to do with Jimmy Garoppolo. Are they going to sign him to another one-year contract? They're all recovering from injury, and none of them are ready right now. And Trey Lance is, you know, a combination of the youth plus an explosive rushing athletic ability with a strong arm, but he needs a lot of growth with playing under pressure and throwing mechanics and getting the ball out faster. There is a lot of work that Trey Lance needs, and plus he's just got to stay healthy. He's got to stay on the field. But with the 49ers being so good and making it to so many NFC Championship games over the past several years, and Kyle Shanahan being one of the best offensive play callers in the league, if Trey Lance is healthy and all of a sudden he's rumored to become the starter again, well, people are going to buy his cards. People are still buying his cards right now. They're not dirt bottom prices. You're going to find more expensive rookie ticket autos and optic hollows and prism silvers on Trey Lance than you are of Zach and Davis Mills. So I would sell at will based on comps to close to Justin Fields, definitely under Trevor Lawrence, about the same, a little bit more as Mac Jones. I think you sell at will based on more hype comps to not risk another injury. That means even if you maybe break even on Trey Lance, I'm going to go ahead and say you sell him now. I know a lot of people will argue that he goes in the hold for future hype spike, and you could argue that same thing. I think he's close. How much personal collection value does he have to you? How much of your sports cards bankroll is he occupying? How much profit can you get into right now? Do you have a super rare Trey Lance autograph card that you ripped out of a pack that you can go ahead and sell for a couple $100 that you only had $20, $30 in the card? If the seller can pay immediately, I say you go ahead and sell that card and move it and roll it into something else like a Justin Fields or a Trevor Lawrence. He has a high fragility rating at this point now too, you know? So yeah, he's going to go in that yellow category for me. There's a couple guys not on here that I want to put in the tier list, but one of them is Tom Brady's retirement replacement. So, you know, with Tom Brady officially retiring from the NFL, you know, that leaves a opening for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers starting quarterback job, and Kyle Trask has definitely been in a lot of conversation. He's the only quarterback currently under contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, Blaine Gabbert is a veteran that's been on the roster the past couple years. They keep re-signing him to a one-year deal. So it's yet to be seen if Tampa is going to pick up a veteran quarterback from the free agency market, if they are going to give Kyle Trask a starting job on a rookie contract because they have other veterans and other players on the team they need to restructure, or if they're going to re-sign Blaine Gabbert to a one-year deal and give Kyle Trask more time to develop. There is a chance that Kyle Trask does get the starting job, and if that happens, then his prices will continue to go up. You've already seen about a 10 to 20% increase in demand in Kyle Trask cards across the board, whether those the rookie ticket autos, the more rare autograph cards, or the prism silvers, optic hollows, stuff that's serial numbered, patch cards that are serial numbered, have some nice rookie elements. So I'm going to put Kyle Trask. I'm not letting go of Tom Brady because I don't want somebody to watch this. Hey, you put Tom Brady there, sell at will based on more hype comp. I mean, Tom Brady's replacement, Kyle Trask, is the rumored replacement for Brady in Tampa. So I'm going to say sell Kyle Trask at will based on more hype comps. However, you could also hold him for your future hype spike. It is quite risky. I would say because he has no proven NFL track record, he is rumored right now to be their starter. I would go ahead and sell him at will based on some better comps. Like, I wouldn't take super low ball offers, but if you can get like Trey Lance prices or maybe close to Justin Fields or even Mac Jones, like, I don't expect you to ever get Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence prices, but if you could get Mac Jones or Trey Lance prices for your Kyle Trask card and you've got 100 200% profit, he's a guy you could sell right now based on the rumors that are being swirled about him. So I'm going to put Kyle Trask in this category. Now if you're a Tampa Bay fan like me, you probably want to hold him. Like, I have some Kyle Trask cards. I'm not rushing to list him. He's got a longer leash for me because I am a Tampa Bay fan, right? So I'll probably hold him. I think he's going to be a great preseason flip. I think whoever they bring in, unless they give him a big contract, then there is going to be some type of quarterback competition. Maybe they bring in a cheaper free agent, like maybe they bring in a Gardner Minshew, and there's a quarterback competition in the preseason. Ultimately, I think Gardner Minshew would beat out Kyle Trask based on his experience and his throwing capability, but Kyle Trask has potential, so he's kind of in between this yellow and green category for me. Hey, real quick, guys, if you could do me a huge favor, let me know in the comments section below, how can I improve this tier list? Are there any other tiers that I kind of missed? There's an aspect of the football card sales cycle that I missed that I should add to the tier list for future tier videos that we do like this. Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to get your feedback. And then Kellen Mond's not even on here. He's a guy that's going to just be dirt bottom, basement, cheap prices. He got cut from the Vikings last preseason. I mean, he's a flashy player. He's got some interesting win-loss statistics from college. He's a guy that just got like mysteriously hyped up like overnight last preseason. Maybe that could happen again. I mean, he's kind of a guy that you just sell at ASAP, even at a loss, or, just kind of have listed, but it's going to be at Zach Wilson, Davis Mills prices, and maybe you sell him in the preseason, you get lucky. Now we're going to talk about wide receivers. The first one that comes up from 2021 is Jalen Waddle. Absolutely want to hold him for a future hype spike. Or if you've got somebody that's just banging down your door wanting to pay you handsomely for your Jalen Waddle card, you can go ahead and sell at will. So you can put him into the yellow or the green category. But absolutely, with how young and how explosive and how good he was in college, he also went to Alabama. So very good. He's also playing with his college quarterback, so hopefully Tua can stay healthy and get back on the field, because the Tua Jalen Waddle combination is lethal, and I think there could be a lot higher hype spikes for Jalen Waddle in the upcoming season. So he's a hold for future spike. Absolutely no pressure to sell him. You want to hold on to him. Same thing with Devonta Smith, man. Absolutely former Heisman Trophy winner, also another Alabama college graduate there, draftee, and just making big waves on the Eagles this past year, showing some incredible deep ball chemistry with Jalen Hurts, who's about to get a massive contract extension, Super Bowl contenders. Absolutely, right? If someone's banging down your door to buy Devonta Smith, the same thing as Jalen Waddle, and you can realize a nice 200% profit, and you want to have some more bankroll to buy some new cards, and he's not necessarily one of your coveted personal collection guys, I would say you can go ahead and sell him at will. Now, who would you comp these guys out to? Well, you can comp them out to Jamar Chase. I mean, Jamar Chase is the top of the draft class, and these guys, with how good their teams are and their production profiles, are very similar to Jamar Chase, honestly, in terms of production. Now, athletic talents, I mean, they're close, but they're somewhat different. Jamar Chase is like a blend between these two guys, and these guys are fairly different, like long, lanky, fast, good route runner, great hands. Jalen Waddle is shorter, very fast, incredible route runner, very good hands as well. So, you know, it's a little bit, they're different archetypes, but in terms of like production, in terms of targets, air yards, target share, you know, they're both like a 1A, 1B combination. You know, he's got Tyreek Hill for target competition. He's got A.J. Brown for target competition. Jamar Chase has got T. Higgins, but Jamar Chase is definitely, you know, the 1A for Joe Burrow. Plus, there's that whole LSU connection, and with how explosive Jamar Chase is at the point of catch, and how good he is at hand-eye coordination and setting himself up for yards after the catch. You know, Jamar Chase is a really cool blend hybrid between these two players, and he's definitely a hold. So he's going to be your most hyped up guy from the draft class, but Devonta and Jalen Waddle are going to be right behind him. And you could absolutely look at comping those guys out to him. Yeah, Kyle Pitts isn't going to be on here because he's a tight end. He's the most hyped up tight end from the 2021 draft class, coming off of an injury. You could sell him at will based on more hyped up comps, or he fits into the green hold for future hype spike. Nico Collins is definitely, is that Nico or is that Brandon Cooks? That kind of looks like Brandon. Yeah, so I don't see Nico Collins anywhere on this list of player images, so we could just use Brandon Cook. Brandon Cooks would be like sell at will, sell ASAP, man. He's getting older. He's about to move to a new team. I think you could sell him at will. I mean, his price is going to be like sleeper, dirt cheap prices. He may end up on a new team this upcoming year. He's still a good wide receiver talent. He could definitely go up in hype and demand and some spikes, but nobody's going to be just like beating down your door to buy rare Brandon Cooks cards. So Nico Collins, though, for me, with how young he is, I do think he definitely has potential, especially if the Texans make a big quarterback upgrade with maybe a Bryce Young or something like that. You know, Nico Collins is going to be their de facto #1 receiver, you know, next to like John Mechie, who is more of an interior route running specialist. So Nico Collins will be playing on the outside, and if they get rid of Brandon Cooks, this is great for Nico Collins. And Nico Collins is a guy I think you could hold for a future hype spike. I wouldn't be rushing to try and sell him now because his price is going to be very low. I think his prices will go a lot higher in the future. So another relevant 2021 draftee is Kadarius Toney, formerly of the New York Giants, now on the Kansas City Chiefs. And yeah, he's a guy that I could see getting some hype. Definitely people will pay some decent money for Kadarius Toney here and there. He's kind of a knucklehead off the field. He's also going to have a lot of target competition in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes and his favorite target in Travis Kelce. And then next to that, maybe Juju Smith-Schuster. But Kadarius Toney is one of those guys who can really score from anywhere on the field. He just has a hard time staying on the field. And he's not going to ever have this massive role, especially when you have like a healthy Mecole Hardman and a healthy, we'll see what happens with Marquez Valdes-Scantling and stuff. But Kadarius Toney's got kind of this gadget role, and he is pretty electric in the open field. So I would sell at will right now. Like, honestly, if he's a guy that you have, I would prioritize listing him and getting him listed and promoting him to sell first over these guys, because his team just won the Super Bowl. He did make a couple plays in the game, and there could be people definitely wanting to buy and get his cards right now. So I would be prioritizing him over. I would even, like, you know, put him in the red category. I think you could probably at least make some money on him, especially if you've been ripping him out of pack. If you have a defensive player like Micah Parsons from the 2021 draft class, he's definitely a hold for future spike, or in the yellow category. I mean, he's arguably the most demanded and hyped up defensive player right now in the league. I mean, the guy is on a future Hall of Fame track in terms of defensive players. It does not get more hyped up for defensive player than it does for Micah Parsons right now in the NFL. He can do it all, and he is incredibly good. In terms of 2021 running backs, the most notable one is Najee Harris, and as it is with any running backs, I like to put them in this yellow category. Most running backs I don't like to long-term hold on unless they're just a PC guy for me, right? Like, I'm fine like long-term holding some. When I say long-term, I mean for more than a year or two. Some Rashad White or some Leonard Fournette because of their stint with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and because I'm a fan and they're part of my personal collection. But if they're for an investment, I'm looking at them as a fantasy asset. Definitely want to either hold Najee Harris on your Dynasty Fantasy team, or if you can get like a really nice premium for him, yeah, man, I would sell him. Like if someone's trying to trade you the #1 overall pick for this upcoming draft in your Dynasty fantasy roster, let's say non-superflex, like standard format or even superflex, but you have a hole at running back, and you could potentially get Bijan Robinson with that #1 overall pick, would you trade Najee Harris for him? I think you do. There's a few landing spots that would be very good for Bijan. And I think Najee's got the role. He's got some really good athletic ability. He showed it at Alabama. He showed, he can handle that type of workload. I am bullish on him for this upcoming season as Kenny Pickett develops, as the Steelers build in the trenches. So I'm not trying to take any type of loss on Najee Harris. If anything, I'm going to hold him. I'm not going to let anybody lowball me. So he's between this yellow and green category for me. Michael Carter, on the other hand, he's going to go in the red category for me. Yeah, he's pretty explosive. He's a really good satellite back. He's got great receiving ability, arguably better receiving ability than Breece Hall, but Breece Hall is definitely going to demand more or less a 60 to 70% opportunity share. He's going to demand more or less a bell cow workload just because of how freaking explosive and talented he is in both rushing and receiving. And he's so efficient. And even though Michael Carter's good, he just can't handle that type of workload. He's a nice change of pace, satellite back, which is a guy that, yeah, maybe he has a big game here or there, but he's never going to really get that type of bell cow workload that's going to create the type of demand spike that a Najee would, or a Breece Hall would, and that's ahead of him, and Breece Hall in his rookie contract. Breece Hall may not be 100% coming off of an ACL tear from past seasons, so you could have Michael Carter more in this category, and his prices are super cheap right now, so I go ahead and have them listed. Don't expect much. I wouldn't even really list them for a whole lot more than what your finding comps are. You cannot expect them to go for. You have to sell them based on the workload that he currently has. You can't put him in the Travis Etienne category or the Najee Harris category. You have to put him in more of a satellite back category. I would put him in the same category now as James Cook, on the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills, it's a possibility they could draft Bijan Robinson. They've got to do something about that run game. But, I think you could put them in a same category, even though they're slightly different draft classes there. They have a similar role in the offense, and that's really what you're looking to compare. Roles there. You want to sell him at a guy that's got a similar role. Ramondre Stevenson is definitely in that yellow category for me. He's definitely got a lot of hype coming off of this past season. Thanks to an injury to Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson stepped into more or less a bell cow role for the Patriots, which is really uncommon, not something that they've really done in the past, but he finished number 3 amongst running backs in the NFL in targets, number 6 in opportunities, and number 7 in receiving yards. I mean, he ran a ton of routes, also had the 3rd most evaded tackles, which led to the 3rd best juke rate in the NFL amongst running backs, number 6 in breakaway runs. He had 15 runs over 15 yards. So just yards created per touch and yards created, which are yards generated after the initial contact. The guy was top 10, so incredibly hyped up, especially on a big market in the Patriots, and they typically don't have this bell cow role. You can get some really good prices for Ramondre Stevenson right now. I don't expect that to be the norm for the Patriots. They could go back to more of a running back by committee approach next year. They've got a whole stable of running backs that are pretty talented between Kevin Harris and Pierce Strong and whoever they probably end up drafting this offseason or picking up. I mean, I've got to put Ramondre Stevenson. He's totally in that sell at will right now based on his own current comps. I think you could also compare him to guys like Etienne and Najee and probably sell him close to that depending on the scarcity of the card that you hold. So out of all these guys, I would list him first, and then I would go ahead and list your Carters. This is James Cook. He's going to be the 2022 class, but we'll put him there. And then obviously have these Etiennes and Najees listed, but don't feel pressured to sell them right now at anything below comps. Going back to quarterbacks, but looking at the 2022 22 rookies, if you've been ripping any 2022 product, I'm absolutely going to advocate that you go ahead and sell those Malik Willises. Yeah, this guy's a very good rusher, but he is shown to not be ready at all, not even at the slightest for NFL action. I don't know that he's ever going to be a competent passer in the NFL. He's got the arm strength, he's got the athletic ability, and he's a great rusher. He's going to require a lot of development. So I would say, you know, if you don't, people are still buying his cards right now. So that's the thing. Like, I'm like advocating, like, if you don't want to, if you really want to roll the dice and you have minimal amount of money invested in him and you really want to roll the dice, I think you could hold him for a future hype spike. Is cool. He's a quarterback. He's super athletic, so you could put him down here, right? I wouldn't sell him for like dirt cheap basement floor prices, but at the same time, I think you can go ahead and sell him. Same thing with Kenny Pickett. I think I would put him in more of my green category. He is going to be the starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers again next year. I think he develops, gets better. He got better towards the end of the season. The guy has got potential. So, and he's got a real role, and that's important. And he showed that he could be competent at the NFL level. So we'll see how he develops. But ultimately, I would like to hold Kenny Pickett. He's also on a much larger market team. The Pittsburgh Steelers, their fan base is way, way bigger than the Tennessee Titans. And so even Malik Willis on the Tennessee Titans on a run-heavy offense until something happens with Derrick Henry, I just don't see Malik Willis getting the role that could really, I just don't see him getting the role. Plus, when having a role starting chance, I mean, he's just totally flamed out thus far. So he's got to have to prove it way more this upcoming season or next opportunity before people just start running out and dropping their pants for, you know, spending some big bucks on Malik Willis there. The same thing with Desmond Ridder, really. He had a pretty terrible NFL debut, and I don't think that Desmond Ridder is the guy. I mean, he flamed out in college in the championship game in his senior year after putting up some pretty decent numbers. And the guy has got like good straight line speed, but he doesn't have that, you know, side to side mobility or electricity that a guy like Malik Willis has. So I don't think he's a great rusher. And I don't think he's a great passer. He's got a lot of development to do, and I don't think he's ever going to really develop to the level of an elite NFL quarterback. And these guys are like really hyped up right now. So honestly, I think you could put them in that red or yellow category that you're really selling, and you're making your best money now on them because they're so young and they're so unknown, and they do have decent draft capital. I mean, that's pretty bad when the first quarterback was Kenny Pickett at the end of the first round last year, and then these guys weren't taken to the third round. So what does that tell you? And Kenny Pickett, it was drafted over them. So what does that tell you? I mean, that tells you a lot, honestly. That tells you a lot. So there's a lot of teams that passed up on these guys that needed quarterback. Bailey Zappi, I say you go ahead and sell as well. I think he kind of got his flash in the pan, and I'm not sure he'll ever, you know, get a starting job. It's not like Brock Purdy where he got extended starting time. There's a possibility that Bailey Zappi could once again get his starting job. He's behind Mac Jones on the depth chart. You never know. People get really excited about Bailey Zappi if something were to happen to Mac Jones, or if Mac Jones just starts really playing bad. All of a sudden, you're going to see the rumors start heating up for Bailey Zappi, and he starts playing good. His little profile is not down here, but I would say he's a guy that you sell at will based on more hyped comps, or you kind of hold him. One of those two categories. You know, there's going to be some people out there that are willing to buy some nice Bailey Zappi cards, playing that backup quarterback game where they could potentially cash out on like a big starting opportunity. And Bailey Zappi can flash in the pan. If he did it once before, he can flash again. And he's still super young, right? So first year. Same thing with Sam Howell. Also not on here, but he flashed in the preseason last year with some good rushing mobility. Also flashed at the end of the regular season with some nice rushing ability. You have some coaching changes to the Commanders this year. I think the Commanders are a decent team that could get a little bit better this year. So the Commanders have kind of been in this rebuild mode for a while. They have some really good wide receivers. So if Sam Howell did get a starting job next season, I think you could see a spike for him. So he's kind of in my green category. And then Matt Corral. Matt Corral is definitely going to be in this yellow category for me. Could get a starting job for the Panthers some point if somebody got injured, but he's not NFL ready. I don't think he'll ever amount to a really good NFL quarterback. The scan progression, the decision making there under pressure is not great. So never going to really, I think, amount to a great NFL quarterback, but I do think he can fit into this sell at will or sell ASAP category. In terms of 2022 running back, dang, man, I don't see his little face on here, but Breece Hall will definitely be in the hold for future spike category. He is best comparable to Jonathan Taylor, according to Player Profiler, so he's another guy, like, it would definitely be in that green hold for future spike category. I mean, the guy is electric and all-purpose skill set, can be elite in both receiving and rushing, and will garner a bell cow role. Kenneth Walker has proved that he was an absolute stud of a running back this past season, and he is going to garner a big workload moving forward for the Seattle Seahawks. His old predecessor there, Chris Carson. So if you had Kenneth Walker, who is way, way, way better than Chris Carson, and Chris Carson's all but down and out and from the league. So if you got him, you can just sell ASAP even at a loss, take whatever you can get. Pennies on the dollar. But if you had Kenneth Walker III, he'd be in my yellow or green category for sure. He even showed that he could be a good receiver. So Kenneth Walker is going to be a first or second round fantasy pick in seasonal fantasy leagues this upcoming year. Rashad Penny can never stay healthy. Kenneth Walker proved to be really good after contact, really good in the receiving game. And man, this new Seattle offense looks really, really dynamic. So I really like having Kenneth Walker here in my green category. Tyler Algier is a guy for the Atlanta Falcons that had a pretty solid year. Here's Cordell Patterson. Here's his depth chart competition for the Falcons. Cordell Patterson, if he doesn't have a lot of collection value to you based on his borderline Hall of Fame NFL career at this point, you could sell at will based on more hype comps. I think you could sell at will, period, on Tyler Algier as well. He's got some hype coming off last season, but he doesn't have an elite athletic profile. He doesn't have like a bell cow type workload in his future with the depth chart competition in Atlanta. They were a super run heavy team this past year, one of the most run heavy teams in the league, but you know, it's still a split workload, and there's never going to be like that sole focus, especially with Cordell Patterson on the roster there and still showing a lot of juice and explosiveness in his game. But I would say go ahead and list him. Same thing with Pierce Strong. There's people definitely hyped up about him. Dameon Pierce, who's now coming off an injury for the Texans. I think he's a guy you could hold for a future spike. I mean, he was really good and efficient for the Texans, receiving and rushing. Definitely, I mean, he gained almost straight away a bell cow role. Now, he didn't have much depth chart competition. You know, he had Rex Burkhead, who's right here, and David Johnson behind him on the depth chart. So there wasn't a whole lot of competition. David Johnson, 31 years old, and Rex Burkhead like 28, 29, even nicknamed the White Ninja. These guys still didn't have the explosiveness, the youth, the ability to handle that big of a workload. Dameon Pierce came out really strong out of the gates. He probably saw his best prices, but he's going to be hyped up again heading into next year. I definitely think so, especially if they get a quarterback upgrade. They've got the coaching upgrade. They do have some decent offensive linemen. A team could get better because they still have a lot of capital and cap space to spend this offseason. So he's a guy that you can go ahead and list, especially if you got like college uniform cards, the big fan base for the University of Florida. Cade Otton, tight end for Tampa Bay. Trey McBride. These guys you kind of sell at will. Or hold for future hype spike. Aiden Hutchinson, he's definitely either a hold or sell. Like, there's a lot of like collectors that want to get Aiden Hutchinson, especially the more rare cards. So if you got them, you can make some nice money on Aiden Hutchinson right now. I mean, he's hyped up to the level close to Micah Parsons, just based on like the quarterback pressures he had this past season, plus the whole storyline with him being a hometown hero for the Lions. They're ascending. I like Aiden Hutchinson. I would even feel fine holding him into this next year. He also had like one of the highest amount of interceptions for a defensive edge rusher this past year. Aiden Hutchinson it proved to be quite the stud, and I think you feel good holding him. You could also make some really nice money on him right now, so I list him. Chris Olave here. I'm gonna drag Michael Thomas because I'm not sure if Chris Olave, it looks like I'm missing some, like the rookies, the 2022 rookies from this profile list. Have to take that up with the tier maker, get them to add those 2022 rookies to this. But Chris Olave, who stepped up to a big role for an injured Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, couple veterans. You know, Michael Thomas is all but done with his career at this point with the amount of injuries. His fragility rating has gone through the roof. The same thing with Jarvis Landry, and his guys are become like old veterans that are play a few games, then get hurt, pull a hamstring, what have you, twist an ankle, and then miss the rest of the season. So if you got Chris Olave, he's definitely in that green category for the Saints getting a better quarterback. Like, if they get a quarterback upgrade, which they're definitely in talks with Derek Carr, they're in talks with other quarterbacks. I mean, they're trying to upgrade a quarterback. They really need to. Like, Andy Dalton's not the answer. Jameis Winston's not the answer. So I think Chris Olave would be in your green category because I think better prices are in the future. But I would say also sell at will, man. Sell at will based on like Garrett Wilson prices. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson are at the top of the draft class. I mean, with Drake London, but Drake London doesn't have a quarterback. Garrett Wilson doesn't have a quarterback, and neither does Chris Olave. So they're all could be getting quarterback upgrades, and all of them would have massive demand spikes if they actually got a really good quarterback. So, you know, Chris Olave, Drake London, Christian Watson. Christian Watson is a guy that I'm absolutely going to put in my sell at will category. Alan Lazard may not be on the team next year. Alan Lazard is going to be a free agent this offseason. Devontae Adams is now on the Raiders. MVS is now on the Chiefs. Alan Lazard is going to be a free agent this offseason. We'll see what the Packers do with Aaron Rodgers, what happens there, what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. But Christian Watson has got hype. He's got a lot of hype right now. He's got a lot of hype for what he did. I mean, just incredible touchdown efficiency. And of course, that's because Rodgers gravitated towards him in the second half of the season. You know, when they realized Romeo Doubs wasn't going to be their Jordy Nelson savior. Christian Watson does have a very explosive athletic profile, a little bit higher of a fragility rating. He's not going to be your Jamar Chase type of, you know, possession plus, yards after the catch monster. But Christian Watson, a really good deep ball threat, gadget player, similar to a Kadarius Toney that you can use in that kind of role. You could sell Christian Watson at will right now. He's a guy really hyped up. His rookie product is going to be still fetching a nice penny. Green Bay fans, it's a big fan base, and they're looking for their next wide receiver superstar. Christian Watson fits into that category right now for them. So sell at will or potentially hold for future hype spike, but have them listed based on what happens to Aaron Rodgers. George Pickens is another guy I like to hold for future hype spike. He's so good. That guy can make some of the best catches you ever seen in your life, like Odell Beckham style one-handed catches. Go look at his highlight reel from this past year. He's absolutely a hold. He's got some target competition with Deontay Johnson and Pat Freiermuth, but he's a guy who could develop into a world-class wide receiver talent, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And as Kenny Pickett develops, I think so will George Pickens, and you want that. Definitely want that. You want to hold that. He's a guy you could definitely sell for higher prices. And then the same thing with Garrett Wilson, who just got Offensive Rookie of the Year. And Sauce Gardner, if you got him on the defensive side, you got Defensive Rookie of the Year. Both of those guys, you can make really good money on their rookie product, and especially if you ripped like Elite or Prestige or any of this stuff that came out during the middle of the season last year, or this past year, sell it now as Donruss is coming out, Prism is coming out in just under a month. So, you know, you're still getting really good prices on your Elites, your Pen Pals, your XRCs, those are going to hold good long-term value. Your more rare cards, like rare rookie autos that are autographed, rookie auto, serial numbered, pro uniform, those are going to transcend these sets, these bigger brands that are coming out, like the Donruss rated rookies, like the Prisms, and then the Optics, the Contenders, rookie ticket autos, and that kind of stuff. So those I would be more inclined to sell at a higher price, or try to sell at a higher price, but all the other stuff, it's just like serial number, color match, cool looking card. Go ahead and get those listed now, and even like sell them at the current comps that they're selling for based on the tiers that we just laid out for you. And go ahead and realize that revenue. I mean, whether it's a profit or not, sometimes you don't always sell for profit if you don't time the market right. Sometimes these windows of opportunity are very small, and as new sets are coming out for 2022 rookies, the other ones just kind of go down. And so that's what we're going to do in an upcoming video, maybe hopefully later this week. I am feeling a lot better, so I appreciate all you guys who have stuck around and stayed patient with me as I'm recovering from pretty serious virus, probably COVID, that I got, last week. So, stay tuned, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.